and now look to Jill Abramson to continue the case for the opposition.
It's wonderful to be with all of you tonight. And Chris, I surely thought that you had brought up my tattoos, pointing out accurately that there's a T and an H, and that you didn't realize I got them in preparation for this debate to represent Hillary, the Democrat, and Trump, the Republican, because I firmly believe that the ailments of American politics, and they're quite severe right now, do not stem from the fact that the two political parties are falling apart. The toxicity in the US political system stems from the ever-widening gulf between American society's big winners, the people who over the past decades have gotten good educations, their affluence has risen, they're in that 2% of people who are wealthy beyond what anyone dreamed people would be would be that wealthy. And then there's the second group, an angry group of people who feel left behind, betrayed by the American dream. They feel worried and paranoid about the changes in society, such as let's just say robotics, but they're threatened by the fact that, manufacturing jobs are not going to come back in the numbers that they once existed in. Donald Trump's promise that he will, like this, bring those jobs back is ridiculous on its face. America still has a very vibrant manufacturing sector, but it takes fewer workers to manufacture what we make. And especially white male Americans are very threatened by the fact that they feel like they no longer control the fortunes of their families. They have no confidence that the lives of their children are going to be better than theirs, which has been a strain of optimism that has very much been a backbone of American political life. And they're angry about that too. So you have, the haves and the have-nots. And that's reflected in both political parties right now. It means that the people who, for most of my life as a political reporter, controlled the Republican Party, which were sort of Chamber of Commerce type Republican business people, independent business people, small business people, don't really have control of the party anymore. And the Tea Party movement rose up. You had then followed by the birthers. You had a populist uprising to challenge the lock on party power that, not right now. Thank you, though. So, you have a quite radicalized, populist-oriented, angry strain within the Republican Party, disgusted, and they see Donald Trump absolutely as their vehicle, and no one more in the primaries than Jeb Bush symbolized everything that they want to get rid of. Jeb Bush, part of a very establishment Republican family going back generations, a status quo Republican. He was not going to be the flavor of this year. So those are two strains fighting each other within the Republican Party. On the Democratic side, as some of my colleagues have already pointed out, you have sort of the Bernie Sanders movement, which encompasses Black Lives Matter, the Occupy Wall Street group that many of you read about a couple of years ago, and they are at odds with sort of the traditional ruling members of their party, who tended to be very wealthy financiers on Wall Street who just happened to be liberal in their outlook on certain personal issues, as well as wanting to improve society for people not as well off as them. Or, Hollywood moguls were sort of the business elite of the Democratic Party too. So now it too is split. But I think after this election, there's actually a tremendous opportunity for soul searching inside of both parties, because it can't go on like this. And the reason that nothing gets done in Washington is because the party system existed for too long as a protection system for incumbents, whether they were Republicans or Democrats. And now what those incumbents most fear, especially Republican incumbents, they most fear getting a challenge in the primary. They're not worried about the Democrat. They're not worried about when you get to the general election with the two parties. They're worried about getting a primary opponent from this very loud, Tea Party-like, much more independent, angry, the people who are not doing that well in society. And they are becoming louder and more numerous within the Republican Party. And some Democratic incumbents, not to the extent of the Republicans, very much fear a challenge from the left. But after this election, and I too think and certainly have my fingers crossed that Hillary Clinton will win. But her part, it's not like the Democratic Party is going to be all calm and happy once she occupies the White House. The Democrats know they're split, the Republicans are split. And at a certain point, no one is going to enjoy being in the seat of power in Washington if nothing ever gets done, and all there is a continuation of partisan shoots from one side to the other. And so I'm optimistic. I think the two parties actually are a source of stability within American politics. You heard references by some of the earlier speakers to the 2000 election with Bush v. Gore. Now, the way I view that election is, if Ralph Nader had just not been in that race at all, I think the outcome would have been very different. You would not have had a stalemated election. And I'm very worried, going into Tuesday. You have Gary Johnson, who almost rivals Trump in his ignorance of basic policy, and he couldn't come up with the name of a single foreign leader who he admired. I mean, come on. People talk about Trump being unfit for the office. Gary Johnson is equally unfit. But, you may have a situation where, I expect Trump will be 44, and I hope Hillary Clinton will get to 47, and that she'll win. But between Gary Johnson and Jill Stein, who's the environmental Green Party candidate, you could have a situation where the two of them effectively rob Hillary Clinton of victory. So I'm a believer in the two-party system, and I think without two strong parties, hopefully two reformed parties, you could have chaos and more splintering of different smaller parties that can't win but can ruin it for other good leaders. So is that my time?